Hey Lawn Care Nation, so in this video I'm going to change the blade engagement belt on this Exmark Commercial 30. I've had this unit since 2020 and it has 3 complete lawn mowing seasons on it. I use this mower as my main mower every day throughout the lawn care season for the majority of my lawns, and it's still on all of the original belts. At the end of the 2022 season here this past fall, during my last few leaf cleanups, I started to notice that the blades were spinning a lot slower in the morning when I would get out there in the cold and start to do some leaf cleanups. Yet the engine RPM was running at the perfect RPM, still running and sounding very healthy. So I did a little bit of research and found that these blade engagement belts are the likely culprit. The other clue was that as I kept mowing with the unit, because at the time it was the only mower I had with me, as the unit started to get warm and that friction built from that belt slipping on those pulleys with metal expanding with heat, the pulleys would expand a little bit, and then it would grip and would start to mow as normal again. And then once the mower would cool down, you go to the next house to do the next job and it would start to slip again until it got warmed up again. So absolutely some good key indicators that that blade engagement belt is worn out. So I've never changed one of these before. We're going to go through it and see how difficult of a process it is. The first step in doing this is you want to make sure that any fuel that you have in your gas tank is drained out, because you're going to need to tip the unit on its side, and you don't want to mess up any of the venting system on these units. So that'll be my first step. Get as much of it as I can. Okay, so next we're gonna have to remove this cover here. There's a couple of bolts, but in order to be able to pull that cover out, we have to remove the engine guard on both sides. So we got a couple of bolts on either side of the wheels there, and then a bolt on either side there, and that'll remove that whole engine guard off. So let's do that next. I'm using a 13 mil socket. Same one on the other side. And then the front ones. Push the bolt through, it'll fall through the bottom there. With this side. So that now gives us access to the cover here, and we're going to use a 10 mil socket to take it off. So the bolts on the cover, there's one there, one there, one there, and then one hiding right there. So our first look here, see a bunch of debris in the front. Here we can remove. So you've got this splined belt here, kind of looks like a vehicle timing belt. This runs from both sides or both spindles and spins the blades. This belt here on top actually comes from the motor and goes to this first spindle, and that's what's actually driving the belts. When you engage the blades, it's going to put tension on that belt to pull it tight to be able to spin the blades. So this is the belt we're going to swap out today. So next we're going to remove that little guard over the belt. This is the same 10 millimeter socket that we used to take the cover off. You see the belt there. So now we're going to flip it on its side and get access from the bottom. Okay, so with the unit flipped on its side, you can see the transmission here and the pulley that drives that transmission right there on top. So one of the belts is going to go around that. You can see the belt right there. And if we try to sneak a peek in there, you can see that spot there with the two pulleys. There's that lower belt there that looks like it's a notched belt. So that's going from the engine to the transmission, and then the belt above it that's going on that sort of larger looking spindle. That's the belt that is going to the blades there in the front. That's the belt we're going to change. So it looks like we need to take that lower belt off first to be able to slip that other belt down past that. So we're going to need to take some tension off of the transmission. And looking around the top here, there's a spring right here. See if I can get a better look at it. So you can see a spring there on the transmission there. So we'll pull that spring. And so I'm going to try with some needle nose pliers to pull that spring off the transmission. Tighten it a little bit. There we go. Just enough to take tension off of that. So the other thing we're going to have to do is take this bracket off as well. Okay, I'm going to switch to a regular style open wrench. A little bit less room in there using the ratchet. So you can loosen it, but then the ratchet kind of binds in there against this little piece of the transmission. I'm just going to pull it out. And then we should be able to tilt the transmission now forward. Yeah. So that allows me to tilt the transmission forward, which allows me to slip this belt off. So that is the belt for the transmission. And you can see it's actually in excellent condition still. Okay, so you can see we've got the transmission belt off that lower pulley. And so now we're going to get that one on the upper pulley off, and then be able to pull that out. Looks like it's also threaded in between a little bracket there. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Okay, so unfortunately the lighting and angle in here is very difficult, so it's going to be hard for you guys to see anything. I'm just trying to pull that belt off that lower pulley, which I've done. And then if I can loosen it from the front, reaching over, which I've done again. And now I'm going to pull it through. And out from underneath. So there we go, we got that belt off. Okay, so I got my old belt next to the new genuine Exmark replacement part. The new one is blue. The old one that was in there was black. You can see the old one is showing signs of wear in spots. You can see there's also some cracks in it that are obviously going to affect that tension. And it's a good thing I'm replacing this at the start of the season. Otherwise, that looks like it would be ready to go. There's another smaller crack that I noticed as well. Not as bad as that first one, but definitely a belt with the way that it was performing needed replacement. So let's get started in getting the new one in there. All right, so the reinstallation is we're gonna have to put that new belt back over that lower pulley to get to the top pulley. We also have to fish it over that bracket right there that I'm shining the light on. and fish it through that to get through the front and then around the other pulley. So it's a bit tricky. It's gonna be difficult for you guys to see on camera while I'm doing it and my hands are in there, but we'll do our best. All right, so get it in there. Got it over the first pulley. And I've got it through that bracket, I think. Yep. Got it through the bracket. I just got to push it out the front. And there we go. So you can see there, I got the blue belt through there, underneath that bracket there, going out the front of the mower. Let's take a look at the other side. So you can see on this end, it's popped through. And again, it's coming out and fished through that little bracket there. So we'll pop it around the pulley here on this side. Just turn the pulleys to get them to spin and get it on there. So you can see it all installed there. It's riding on the back of this pulley here as well, and through that bracket onto that pulley underneath. Okay, so next we need to put the transmission belt back on. So I've heard the easiest way to do this is to actually put it on the pulley on the front there and then tilt the transmission into it. So we'll try that first. Like that. And then see if we can get it around the back of the big pulley here. And there we go. And then we should be able to push the transmission back, and that's going to put tension on that pulley. Yeah, that was pretty easy to get that one back on. So you can see it just right in there on the pulley there. You can see me putting tension on the transmission there, and then back around. So we have to put that spring back on to be able to keep that tension. So we'll try that next. So there we go, that wasn't too bad either. So I've got the spring on there. I'm gonna shine the light in there again. So I got that spring on there, pulled tension on there to hold that belt on there nice and tight. And now we got to put that bracket for the transmission back on. Okay, so all done with the installation there. So now we can flip the mower back right side up and start. So first up, I'm going to put the cover back on. And while I've got it open, I'm just going to grab the vacuum and vacuum out all this debris here. Okay, so next I'm gonna put some fuel in it, turn it on, and just run it without the covers on, just to make sure it's all installed properly. It's not smoking or anything. There's no like unnecessary tension or anything happening before we pop it all back together. Okay, so as you can see, it all ran fine. Blades engaged. Everything seems to be working perfectly now. A little bit of blue smoke coming out of the exhaust when I started it, just from having the unit tipped on its side, but that all burned off and started burning cleanly again, and everything's working as it should. So we can now put it all back together. So the first step is to put that cover back on. And then all that's left here is to put the engine guard back on. Okay, so for the front bolts here, what you're going to need to do, it's a little bit tricky because you have to get up underneath this cavity here. This is hollow where this wheel support is. You gotta go up there with the bolt, feed it through the hole, and kind of hold it in place while you put the bolt on. So like that. As you can see, I'm using my legs and feet underneath the mower to kind of hold it up. You could do this while the machine is on its side again, but I don't want to drain the fuel again. Alternatively, you can also use a jack to hold this up if you're not able to do it with your legs. Just need to get them started by hand, and then you can set the mower down and tighten it up. So there you have it, Lawn Care Nation. That's how you change the blade engagement belt on an Exmark Commercial 30 or a similar mower like the Toro Time Master or Time Saver models. Generally super easy, I would say. This was the first time I had ever done it, and it wasn't that difficult at all, just with some basic hand tools. But if I were to do it again and didn't have a camera or angles and things I had to worry about, I don't think this would take longer than 20 minutes or so, 20-25 minutes at the most. It should be able to knock it out pretty easily. So that's it for this one, guys. If you like this video, make sure you hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, consider subscribing. Leave a comment down below and let me know if you've ever changed one of these belts on the Exmark Commercial 30.